Hello, everybody. Oh, hey, Greg, how's it going? Nice to see you again.
What's up?
Oh, wow. All right. Slowly getting the handle of all this technology things, with the mixer and the sound and everything like that. So, professional podcaster, putting that on my resume. Um, how are you feeling?
Slow down. Don't rush. Don't rush anything.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Created Economy. I'm Ken. You might remember Greg. He's usually popping in and out once in a while. I think he's too important for me to hang out with these days. But welcome to the show. This is our weekly interview series where we chat with the players from the creator economy at large and discuss key topics impacting the growth of the industry. Oop, there we go. All right. So this is March 2nd, 2022, episode 36. This is the third of three shows, actually. We start off on Tuesdays with Creator Work, where Greg and his friends talk about the innovations in Web3, doing some amazing stuff. You should check out all the previous episodes on our YouTube channel. Obviously, Wednesdays is our flagship show. Normally, we do it at 2 p.m., but today we're doing a special episode due to scheduling issues. And then on Fridays, we have our news show, Created Briefs, at 8 a.m. Pacific. You'll be able to find longer form content and notes over on our website at createdeconomy.com. And while you're kind of surfing the net, please follow us everywhere on social media. We are at Created Economy on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and also on Facebook, on Flipboard. Flipboard is where we post all of our news that we discuss every week on Creative Briefs, as well as other stuff as well. All right, moving on to our guest this week. It is Will Baumann, the co-founder and CEO of Fourthwall. Fourthwall is a online platform that basically consolidates everything that creators want to help them monetize their work. And I'm looking forward to having a conversation with Will to understand why is this actually important and how is he improving the way creators can focus and double down on production of content as opposed to worrying about where their money's coming from. And with that, let me take this off. Let's bring Will on the show. And hey, Will, how's it going?
Hey, good. Thanks for having me on, Ken. Thanks for having me on, Greg. Great to see you both. How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing well. Appreciate y'all accommodating me for this time. And yeah, looking forward to chatting.
Yeah, likewise. So, Will, I mean, before we get
Greg,
started,
I think you're on mute as well.
I was gonna say, where are you based again, Will? Because I know you said you're it's very late for you now.
Yeah. So I'm actually normally based in the Venice Beach area out of California, but I'm currently we got an office in the EU in Poland as well right now. So I came out pre-planned trip, though, a little bit, not the easiest time at the moment out here in Eastern Europe for sure. So, but yeah, normally out in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah. So hopefully everyone is safe over there, and you stay safe amidst all the craziness and the madness that's happening right next door, so to speak.
Yeah.
But with that, why don't we get to know more about Fourthwall? So, Will, why don't you introduce yourself and then kind of give us the lay of the land of what is Fourthwall and why did you start it with your co-founders?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Will. Really appreciate y'all both having me on. And for Fourthwall is the first all-in-one creator website builder. So our goal is to allow creators to show off their latest content, design and sell products, offer memberships, engage directly with their biggest fans, and do it all in one place that's 100% owned by them and 100% branded to them. So instead of having to, set up your product sales on a Shopify, connect that with PayPal for donations, add on a Patreon for memberships, and then stitch that all together, it's all done in one place. Again, 100% creator ownership, 100% creator branding. And we found this to be kind of the something that creators really resonate with and really want. And kind of where this idea came from, or sort of the whole genesis of it all, is honestly, most of us are big content consumers. We love it. I'm personally a bit of a science nerd, so I've always liked the Simone Giertz, the Mark Rober channels, things like that. And so early on, while I was watching and connecting with my co-founders, one of the things we really noticed is just how hard it is for creators to figure out the money making side of things. Like there's really no playbook. Nobody has a starting point. Everyone's kind of candidly figuring it out from scratch, right? And that's why you end up having so much like randomness in the system. There's, some people are doing product sales, some are doing memberships, some are experimenting with Web3, some are doing, giant stunt donations and all sorts of things. And there's not really one size playbook that fits all. But certainly on the superstar level, it's pretty well diversified between, a number of streams. You've got your platform revenue. Think of your like YouTube, AdSense and Twitch subs, things like that. There's product sales, NFTs, physical goods, things like that. There's memberships a la Patreon. Folks are selling their time a la like courses or things like that. And then sponsorships. But for the up and comers, there's really, if they're lucky, they get one of those, right? It's usually platform revenue. If you're on a YouTube or Twitch, TikTok is starting to get there, but it's not quite as set up in the way that allows them to grow and succeed in that. And maybe they'll have one more beyond that. They'll sell a t-shirt or something, but it's really limited. And if you talk to those creators, it's almost exclusively about time. It's just hard to make the time while you're so focused on your content and so focused on your communities to how the hell are you going to figure out how to launch an e-commerce line? How the hell are you going to figure out like what a proper memberships program looks like? How are you going to figure out any of this stuff? And so our goal is to make this super easy where creators can get started, do it dead simple, but at the same time, give them that ownership, give them that flexibility. So as they grow, they can really scale things up and give them that branding so they own that end-to-end experience.
So how do you equate this? Like, what would you say in terms of like, if somebody equated this to being something like, I guess during the Web 2 eras with Wix, Squarespace, and Weebly. I mean, those things are the DIY for websites. And this is almost, in a way, it almost is similar in terms of obviously setting it up. But what is your secret sauce in terms of what Fourthwall does compared to all these other ones? And I get there's certain integrations that kind of like are a little bit more native within Fourthwall that kind of you don't get with Weebly and Squarespace and Wix. But can you walk me through, like, when you looked at the two, like, how do you fully differentiate what you're doing from everything else? And how is that scalable beyond just creators?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll be candidly, we're really focused just on creators today. So that's really our bread and butter. That said, you wouldn't notice the difference between a Fourthwall website from a Wix or from a Weebly or from a Shopify or any of the others. There's nothing that really gives it away that says this is Fourthwall versus any of those others. That said, when you're building for creators, I think there's a fundamental difference in terms of like the mentality. So just to compare Shopify, for example, when you buy from like a brand, a traditional business brand like a Nike, right? You want a cool pair of, let's say, shoes, you want a fresh pair of kicks, but you're not really doing it because you support Nike. You just want something that's cool and limited edition. When I buy from a creator, it's really an active support or an active love. And I think that's something that really permeates the experience of Fourthwall. And so an example of this is built right into the checkout flow. The very first step, you can leave a message to those creators. So for example, I could write, yo, Ken, yo, Greg, like, love the show, big fan, all that. And if y'all are live streaming, that would then be an alert that pops up right on your feed. Or it can show up in a mobile app where you can then say, hey, Will, I saw that you left this message. That's so cool. Shout out to you. And I think that aspect of community building, like, you would never imagine that in a Shopify type of world, right? It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't really fit in. Like, what message would you leave to a Nike per se, right? Versus a creator, that message, like, it's so simple, but if you start to see these messages that folks leave to creators, they're really meaningful. They're really powerful. And I think they're a really, motivating community building element. And interestingly, like, final note on this is, like, from all e-com conversion theory, this is a terrible idea, right? Leaving a message versus like pushing through the conversion rate. But interestingly, if you cross-test it against any of these other platforms for creators, it actually converts better. And I think it's just because of the genuine nature of this and the community recognition aspect of it.
Interesting. So how do you stack up with, I mean, there's a lot of these link in bio. We had Sammy Kaufman on the show last week. She's the music lead for Linktree. We've had other people who, like Dimitri Shapiro from Koji. very doing all of these kind of like link in bio type of things. And I think in the creator space, that's kind of the, I guess, benchmark for in the creator economy, right? And people don't necessarily want to take away their fans from their main platform. So why is it important for, in your opinion, to bring them off of the TikToks, off of the Snaps, off of the YouTubes, and into the web? Like,
Yeah.
what is that? What are your thoughts in terms of how should creators view that as part of their marketing plan?
I mean, I think honestly, from a discovery element, creators should double or triple down on the platforms, right? I mean, that's where all the fans come. That's where all the discovery comes from. Like, you shouldn't focus on your site offline as discovery or where you at. That said, building your offline brand presence is pretty foundational to long tail success. And there's a couple reasons for this. One is just simply, creators are multi-platform, right? Y'all, for example, this show is going to go on YouTube right after. There might be a clubhouse to post in questions. Like, there's all this stuff. You're not single channel. So I think foundationally, there is a need for your central hub, be it on Fourthwall or be it on Linktree or any of these things. Number two, and I think this is where you really kind of scale into creators that have that more driven business success, is you want to diversify a bit off platform, at least in terms of how you connect with your super fans. So you never know if there's going to be, let's say, another YouTube adpocalypse or algorithm shift that really sort of changes how your discovery element is. And if you haven't built effectively your email list or CRM of your fans, it's hard to really scale that out from here. It's hard to really bring that forward. And so, largely speaking, I think building your own brand offline, it's pretty foundational to how you scale up and how you think of yourselves growing from just the entertainment side into the business side. And that really what we've seen, it helps those creators be able to scale things forward. I think just about everyone who we've worked with who's like really successful from a monetization point of view has built a really strong super fan network off platform as well.
Greg, any thoughts or any questions you have for Will right now?
Well, certainly I understand. I think the fine tuning of the sales process and funnel for creators. I've observed a couple of problems, I guess, like with the creator economy, like in large. Actually, Ken and I did a talk when was that?
It was yesterday. Who knows what he
long week,
at the Web 3.1 conference, and it was an interesting talk about transition from Web 2 to Web 3. And one of the things that came up was sort of this notion or distinction between sort of the creator entrepreneur versus sort of the creator, right? Because not all creators necessarily opt in to sort of not definitely don't opt into entrepreneurship, but most of them, not even a lot of them don't even opt into sort of like monetization per se, right? Yeah. So on the one hand, I see like some challenges kind of where, how have you found any tips or tricks or techniques that sort of help people be salesy without being salesy, right? Because, there's often like a massive hesitation for creators to like ask their fans to do something like this, right? And the second part of that, I guess, related is there a sweet spot, like from a creator size or breadth kind of point of view where you think like maybe it's a little early to try to do this, or should someone start this, like from day one versus like, when they have like 100,000 followers or something like that? So I'm just kind of curious about those aspects.
Yeah. So let me maybe start on the second one first. I think when you're starting out, like, you definitely shouldn't hide any of your content. Like if you're trying to do a Patreon day one, short of just as like a donation, recurring donation bot, I don't think it makes sense, because the highest ROI thing you can do is really build up that content side of things. Then from like a day one point of view, I don't think it really matters the follower counts. It's more of like kind of how tight knit your fans are. But I think the highest value thing is you can sell what I would consider your time, right? So either creating a one-time product you can sell, or selling a class or selling a cameo or just a personalized kind of like lesson or things like that. That tends to scale pretty well in a creator's early days, where it's not going to be enough to sustain you, but it's enough to make money early on as things are going. And so from our side of things, like usually what I would say is somewhere between like the I don't know, 5,000 to 100,000, 200,000 subs range, it's usually selling your time element.
On YouTube
Somewhere
or Instagram or like, because five on YouTube.
That's fair. So I would say the metrics are creators who are by far the most successful are personality driven, unequivocally. Then I would say the tiering is Twitch creators tend to be, within monetization, like per viewer count. Twitch creators are like kill it, and it's so much that's when it speaks to the personality driven nature of things. Like if you can be on camera for 8 hours a day talking to people, like people are gonna like you.
There's natural commerce kind of laid in Twitch, right? Like I feel
exactly
sweeten the path a bit there, right?
Absolutely. And then I would say from there, it's like YouTube is number 2 after that, then TikTok. And I think Instagram has like the hardest challenge. And a part of it for Instagram is it's a little less personality led. It's getting more so with, with some of the stories and shorts and reels and things like that. But it's harder for Instagram influencers to be able to like convert into that monetization channel because it's like a lower engagement connection, right? Like to follow someone on YouTube or, even to listen to this show, right? You're committing to an hour, right? Versus like Instagram, it's a feed that you're scrolling a few minutes. So we definitely see like it's for sure skewed in terms of those different channels.
What about in terms of the types of customers that you have on Fourthwall? Right now, you're invite only. And what is the breakdown, if you know, just even anecdotally, of the types of creators that you're seeing on Fourthwall? Are they mostly musicians? Are they or in the entertainment space? Are they live streamers? Are they folks that you might find on like creators for like on Pinterest or YouTubers? Or do you have any specific type of breakdown by vertical or by sector, perhaps?
Yeah, so I don't have like perfect numbers offhand, but I would say we're roughly speaking, we don't necessarily have any restrictions in terms of one or the other, but naturally the folks we see the most success on and hence like, refer in and drive in the most of their friends, things like that. I would say it's probably 40% Twitch, 40% YouTube, and then 20% other, which is like some combination of music, TikTok, etc. But almost exclusively folks that are successful have that personality driven like approach to it, right? If your face isn't on camera at any point or you're not, behind the screen like talking to your fans, it is definitely more of a challenge to be able to like succeed in a larger way from that brand side, or you really have to find that perfect product. I think of like a food porn thing on Instagram, right? You might like all those posts, you might say that's great, but like unless they're selling a cookbook or something like that, you're probably never going to convert from like an e-commerce brand standpoint, or you're better off getting sponsorships for restaurant partners.
So, well, I guess, I was building a creator economy platform, right, for a year. And one of the things that rapidly happened was just sort of the platforms sort of woke up and said, hey, like, there's money over there, right? Like, we should get into more of this stuff, right? How do you imagine interplaying, like, say, my Fourthwall commerce with like YouTube live shopping now, or I know Instagram has got sort of its own built-in e-commerce kind of capabilities. There's something to be said, obviously, for the lack of friction like that exists in the native platforms. I don't believe, obviously, that they will support the fidelity of products that you're going to be able to like offer, that a creator would want to offer even, right? Nor will they offer like the richness in explaining or selling that product. But I'm just kind of curious how you see your paths converging, like for creators who are like, should I just do this on YouTube, or should I go to Fourthwall, or whatever it may be?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually integrate with like YouTube merch shelf already. So like all of our products show up on a creator's YouTube store. I think now maybe these are famous last words, but I do generally think we're pretty collaborative with the platforms, right? Like I think it's hard for them to focus on doing everything at once. And candidly, I think a lot of these platforms like YouTube or like Instagram are looking for partners off stream just because like they're so heavily ad driven. And I think there's a hesitation of like doing anything that makes it weird for the sponsors or whatever. Like if somebody's merch is a copyright infringement or whatever it may be, having a plausible deniability of a separation layer, I think is
I absolutely agree. I don't think their DNA is structured well for them to win per se, like, but they will get a decent amount of, sort of low hanging fruit there.
Yeah, and the way they monetize right now on this, like all these things are free today, but I think like Instagram, I would suspect it's like they offer the 2.9 or introductory payment processing fee, but eventually it's going to jump to 7% or 4% or whatever it is. So you'll pay an extra cut through the Instagram shopping experience. Same with sort of the YouTube side. And my expectation is they'll do it more from that side, where they'll get their cut from being sort of the discovery route, but not necessarily like the other side. That said, honestly, there's almost little to no success in my experience of actually having your shopping or your products down there on a recurring basis. The true value is, as a creator, if you're going to wear it in a video and show off like, hey, this is this product, it's available for the next 3 days only, like that drives all the traffic. Like we see pretty low success with ads and retargeting and things like that, just because it's so creator driven and so personality driven in terms of like, here's the drop, it's limited time only, you got to get it in the next 72 hours or it's gone. And check out these cool things that I'm proud of. I want you to see this. I want you to respect that in the video. And I think that idea of like when a creator is proud of it and that permeates, I think that really drives the fans connection much more so than being natively embedded in like a YouTube or Instagram or TikTok, etc.
So, Will, I'm curious. Like, let's walk through the process for a little bit more here.
Yep.
First of all, it's what you just described in terms of like, hey, check out like my hat or whatever you want. This, go to my Shopify or you want my merch, go to my online store, whether it's Square or Shopify, whatever it is, right? And there's a lot of opportunity there for a creator to do that. And as you kind of pointed out, that drives a lot of traffic to those sites. What is the incentive for me as a creator to say, don't go to instead of saying, go to my Shopify, go to ken.shopify.com, assuming that's a valid URL. I don't know. If it is, congratulations to whoever owns that. But what versus saying go to my Fourthwall site and then make that purchase through there. And I know you talked about how Fourthwall has all these other more intimate points of contact, right? It's like, hey, you can do this Cameo type of opportunity or everything like that. But what other incentive is there for me as a creator to say, go to my Fourthwall as opposed to going directly to that point of sale, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. So fundamentally, a creator would never pitch it as go to my Fourthwall versus go to my Shopify. They would say, go to my site, right? This would be ken.com or greg.com. This wouldn't be, somebody else's site. So just the same way as Shopify is invisible in the process, Fourthwall aims to be invisible. We want to be 100% white label. So the creator's brand is front and center, not ours. That's like unequivocally the goal. Now, in terms of like the broader question of like, how do we help, or like why do we make this easy? When we were talking about it earlier, right, and just like creators don't have enough time in the day to like create content, create community, and focus on the business side, like it's really hard to set up a Shopify. It's an incredible tool, it's a great tool, but it's absolutely a power user tool. It's like the same way that you might imagine Photoshop to a photographer. Shopify is that way. It's like you're an e-commerce expert, absolutely, but if you're a creator, you got to sign up, you got to hire a theme developer, you got to figure out your own website layout, you then got to figure out which manufacturer, which factory you're going to use, you got to run customer support, you got to run fulfillment. Like on Fourthwall, it's next, you drag and drop your logo onto a product, whatever you want, from ranging from kind of the basics of merch like t-shirts, hats, hoodies, to hot sauce, to makeup, to jewelry, like anything you want to sell. It's like drag and drop experience, and all of a sudden it's on your website that's branded to you, and we handle manufacturing, we handle fulfillment, we handle customer support, we handle every detail. So the whole thing should take you 15 minutes or less to go from like my idea to my brand to my sales, right? And that's just not something that you can get on a Shopify unless you have like a team behind you, right? Which the superstars do. The Mr. Beast of the world, they can figure that out. They can negotiate with factories. But if you're up and coming, you don't have that flexibility and that know-how. And so Fourthwall helps you with all that stuff out of the box. But we don't restrict it. You can also sell any products off our platform as well. So if you did source or manufacture your own stuff, no problem. We let you just plug it in with the rest.
And you take Fourthwall based on what I've seen listed in a TechCrunch article, because y'all raised $17 million in November in seed, and I guess it was your seed funding or Series A.
Series A, yeah.
Series A. So Fourthwall takes 5%. I'm sorry?
Pardon?
That would be an insane seed round.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sick. Yeah.
I mean,
we'd be much better negotiators than we are.
I would only be scared for you having to grow into the valuation.
I know.
Like, what kind of conversation did you have with Alexis Ohanian and Gary Tan about this? It's like, hey, by the way, Gary,
merch. Doesn't Gary have merch yet?
Oh,
so Initialize has merch. I think it's a private merch. Gary doesn't have one for his personal channel. We've been chatting with him about it, but Initialize has done a bunch of drops, and with 776. So
nice. You just add it to the sweeten the pile when Gary wants to re-up for later on. It's like, hey,
exactly.
Well, by the way, here's merch to sweeten your spot. Why don't you lead our round as opposed to the other people?
Yeah.
But no, so Fourthwall takes 5% of the creator earnings. Is that correct?
That's actually incorrect. They misquoted, and I think we tried to update on the thing, but we never got anything. So Fourthwall is free for creators. There's no cost in there. There is a flat fee baked in the product. So let's say this hat is $12. It costs $12. We take maybe, let's say, $1 cut or a 50-cent cut, depending on what we negotiate with our manufacturing partners. But there's no fees beyond that except for a 2.9 plus 30 payment processing fee. So that's same as Shopify, anything else. But distinctly, we don't have a percentage fee on top of this take, because otherwise it's a natural incentive to graduate, right? Let's say, Ken, you and I are selling $2,000 a month. We might not care about our percentage fee, but if Greg's selling $1 million a month in terms of product sales, that's like, 5%, $50K. Like, he's going to go and hire a full-time person to do this and switch him to Shopify. So we want to make sure that this is aligned in a way that grows with us and grows with the creator, and they can continue to scale from there.
So you're not hoping for Fourthwall to just be hey, we're just for like small businesses, and then once you hit a certain point, then you move on to somebody bigger, like a Squarespace or a Salesforce or whatever is out there, like a PayPal, assuming they decided to get into this type of area.
Exactly. We want to grow with you. And I do think like our vision is like, we want to be there the day that the creator starts their journey, which, as I alluded to earlier, is like selling your time. That's the easiest starting point, right? I think step 2 in the creator journey is memberships, is generally speaking, like you hit a certain scale where it makes sense to put a certain percentage of your content behind a paywall effectively in exchange for like that flat sort of SaaS fee. And then eventually the long tail is you get into brand deals, you have a professional business agent. So we really want to scale with creators every step of that journey, because we find that to be kind of, generally speaking, how creators, to Greg's point earlier on like, when is it 50K, 100K, and it depends by platform, but everyone kind of hits that demarcation at some point where they're like, all right, I can add on this next thing to fit in smoothly with that. And then eventually you layer on and get a professional agent who manages you and a couple others and kind of runs everything behind the scenes.
So I know we have a couple of people in our Twitter spaces, and as well as watching us live. If you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or leave a comment, and we will ask Will live on the show. Nothing is off limits for Will. He will give us the product roadmap for Fourthwall, as well as the secret sauce, and I don't know, whatever else we can pry out of him. Greg, any questions you have?
Well, I love that you have the fulfillment. So it's sort of like this, Teespring or whatever the hell they call themselves now, right? Like blended with the Shopify, like in all the part. I love taking all the friction out of the equation. But I'm curious, just curious, like from a sort of like, observation kind of level, what other kinds of things do you see creators selling, right? Like, so obviously like Gumroad has created a fairly decent sized business selling like digital assets and things like that. And are folks selling those also those kinds of things? Because like, it feels like they're like, when you're selling courseware, for example, there's somewhat of a customized experience in delivering it, and things like that. I'm kind of curious of the mix of things that you see.
Yeah, we've seen, I would say the two core sellers we see are some sort of like physical products. That's definitely our bread and butter, where we've had the most success for. And just to allude earlier, my co-founder Walker had previously started Teespring. So that's sort of like the next generation of this in terms of how it all pieces together. And then digital products. We see quite a bit of that, ranging from not so much courses, but a lot of shout outs, or what I would call personalized videos, right? So like do this piece of content or polls or something that kind of really a lot of it's community building, right? Whatever that is. And then the products range, right? We've got people selling basic merch, and we've got folks selling $4,000 designer suits on Fourthwall. So it's like kind of the whole gamut as folks think about this sort of creative journey. But I would say, I maybe, eventually we'll get into probably the more Web3 NFT space, but we haven't had, interestingly, much demand there from our creators. I would say it's probably, 10% of folks have asked for it, but it's much smaller than I probably would have thought on the surface. So it's much more physical goods, basic digital and community engagement type features.
That sounds right to me.
What kind of,
I'm surprised it's 10%.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure at some point we're going to see like, Fourthwall will have a, assuming there's a more critical mass, that Will and his team will say, we'll open it up to like NFTs and have some integration with OpenSea. But that kind of,
just real quick there, what strikes me as more interesting use case is like minting NFTs automatically with purchase. So like creating more exclusive realms of merch, like around previous purchases, right? Like, so like I have like an Atom Bomb Squad, right? Like, NFT. And like, there's a whole bunch of times where, and I've never been able to buy any of it, but like where you can only buy it if you hold the NFT, like to be able to get like basically access to the store. So that actually seems like a really interesting commingling of the two spaces, as opposed to like just pure NFT. Like you could still be like, if you bought 5 of these or X $100 with me, you can like auto assign an NFT or something, right?
Exactly. And that's something we've had, like, to the degree that people have asked for it, that's exactly what it is. It's either goods that are gated by your NFT ownership. So for example, you can only buy this physical good if you have, let's say, this rarity or this exclusivity on NFTs. And then there's also like the easy mode of, if you, auto minting, or if you buy X, you get Y in terms of NFTs. The challenge and what we've seen so far, and, an idea that I would love for anyone else to build, is like the simplicity of delivery of NFTs, because, for a lot of these purchases,
like,
easy. Yeah.
Magic Link. I like, well, there's I'll send you some other info on this, but Magic Link is one of my favorite go-to recommendations, because they auto provision a wallet for you at an email address.
Awesome.
So literally you sign someone up and they've got a wallet, and now you can just drop like stuff into their Polygon wallet basically for free, or they support like 19 blockchains.
Awesome. Yeah, we chatted with Novel. We chatted with a few others. I just like, I'll give them a look, because this is something like we don't want to build in house. It's like way too much.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah, but yeah.
Well, I'll send you some notes afterwards, because I've spent a lot of time looking into this as well.
Perfect.
So that kind of opens up the next question: is like, what's next for Fourthwall? I know it's like you're out there. You're slowly opening up the system to creators. But what is next? Obviously, we talked about Web3, but are there other planned integrations? Can you kind of give us a little hint in terms of the roadmap there?
Absolutely. So today's state, Fourthwall is really an e-commerce shop, right? We try to combine the ease of use with Teespring/Spring with the actual flexibility and ownership of a Shopify. So you're never on there repping anyone else's brand. It's 100% owned by you and 100% branded to you. The next evolution of that is combining that, and that, like, getting to this point took us almost 3 years to build. Like, it's an incredible, challenge to architect a full e-commerce solution and get this. Like, it's a huge investment. The next thing, where we've basically been investing for the last 9 months to a year, is combining that with a fully branded memberships experience as well, in a way that's seamlessly integrated with the e-commerce stack. And so the inspiration for this is, if you look at kind of like, a number of the folks who are on Patreon today, especially at that superstar range, if you look at like the Nelk Boys, or you look at Logan Paul's Maverick Club, or Sidemen Side Plus, like all those folks paid developers probably hundreds of thousands of dollars to create their own fully branded memberships. So in the same way that people graduate effectively from a Teespring/Spring to a Shopify because they want that brand ownership, at the very top tier of Patreon, like very, very, very top tier of Patreon, people are starting to do the same. And so we wanted to get ahead of that and start building the same tooling around that subscription support. So you not only have access to things like the private videos or behind the scenes content, but you can also seamlessly combine that with, an e-commerce experience. So much to kind of the same like loose touch point on how NFTs might enable this, memberships also enables this, right? If I'm paying $5 a month, right? Maybe this is a shirt I can get 20% shipping discount. Or if I'm in the 6-month members club, you get access to this special exclusive good. You can think of how this works for musicians, where maybe there's a signed vinyl, but it's only available for the first 200 days to your super fans, right? And so that's something we're really excited about, and we're going to launch that early April for our first kind of proof of concept creators who are doing that. We got a couple exciting launches teed up for that, and that's really our focus for the rest of this year, is smoothly combining that e-commerce with the memberships, because nothing like that really exists today for creators, and I think it really evolves into how creators start that journey. You start by selling your time, either in product designs or courses or shout-outs or whatever. Eventually get to the point where it's worth putting a tiny percentage of your content behind some sort of gate, right? Or some sort of community gate. And combining that with e-commerce, I think, is a really powerful mechanism to allow creators to continue to scale and grow things up.
So how did you get into focusing on the creator economy? Your background isn't necessarily in dealing with creators specifically. You have an engineering background.
Yeah.
Most recently you were at Audible, an Amazon company. And then how did you and your co-founders kind of get into starting this company, starting Fourthwall, and as opposed to all the other stuff that you could be building?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why focusing on an e-commerce / Patreon rival within the creator economy?
I would say the core, again, to start things off, like, I watched a lot of content. Now I just work a lot, but I used to watch a ton of content, right, for all this stuff. And I think that was really the inspiration. That, I think it's a really cool movement. Like, the creator economy is booming, but beneath like that growth and crazy rate is, hundreds of thousands of individuals who are making this their full-time thing. And I think having the opportunity to support and build for these folks was really exciting and empowering. And especially, how hard it is for them. How, like, as I was saying at the beginning of the show, there is no path, there is no playbook for how to make money as a creator. And I think that sucks. I wish it was easier, because, I don't think creators should sell out. I don't think, I think, Greg, you had mentioned something about this earlier about, like, what do you even say to a creator who's like afraid of making money? And the honest answer is, like, they should be cautious. A lot of them are on this crazy uptick. They need to do it in a way that's genuine to their fans. And simultaneously, you have this fan community who's really loves this person and wants to support them for no other reason that they want them to make bigger and better content and buy a nicer mic and buy a better studio and hire an editor so they can churn out twice as many shows or experiments a week, and whatever it may be. And so I think that was the inspiration initially for me. And then I was chatting with Walker, one of my co-founders. He had previously done Teespring, and he had sort of seen this space from behind the scenes, where, like, they had worked with a ton of creators and seen creators who had grown from basically nothing to something along the way. And so we had spent some time chatting, and it just seemed like Teespring was really losing at kind of the top tier, because everyone would shift off to Shopify. And so we saw this opportunity to start something new that's like re-architect the whole experience from the ground up and do it in a way that's 100% creator focused, 100% owned by the creator. They have full flexibility and control. It's their brand. Everything's up front, but scales with them in every step of their journey.
What is your experience? If you talk to a bunch of founders or builders that are wanting to get into space or are in the space, and there's a lot of lessons learned that people get, right? And most people may have like shared experiences, but can you walk us through maybe like a couple of challenges that your team has faced in terms of reaching or engaging creators, and how you built Fourthwall for creators to kind of like, and have the company grow?
Yeah, so I would say, in terms of growth and like pushing on that, I think the hardest thing within the creator space, maybe not hard for like actually hard, but like what's a genuine problem is it's a super tightly networked space, right? So if you're working with a creator who, let's say, streams Minecraft, right? If you screw up for one of them, you've screwed up for every single one of them. And so part of the reason we're invite only is we really want to get it perfect with everyone in these sort of small micro communities so that they love us and they want to recommend us to their fans or their friends, right? Because it's such a tightly network space. So like, but building those systems to figure out like who is the influencer of influencers, and there is really hard. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a lot of trying to search through the charts and figure out like we'll try 20 different things just to find one that works in terms of like a sales outreach. How do you identify the right person? Is it tweets? Is it Twitch counts? Is it this? And there's a genuine struggle is the wrong word, but you have to try and error. There's so much trial and error that really goes into that. We'll spend 6 months until we finally figure, all right, we've at least got our handle on this. And, the struggle is like, how do you go 100 times faster every single day when it's just experiment 1? Nope. Yep. Experiment 2. Nope. All the way through. So I would say that's it. I wish there was like some magic lever where we would go 20 times faster, but the reality is it's experimental. Nobody has solved it. It's not like there's one, in the creator space. I'd say Patreon is probably the closest to like the big fish in the space, but nobody has really solved it in a way that every single creator goes there and like uses them as their like growth tool platform. And I think that's what's really exciting about it, is it's super open.
Yeah. How would you go ahead, Greg?
Let me ask you the hard question then.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been lobbing softballs at you. That's
wrong with Patreon.
So
no,
absolutely.
I mean that like because I think there's something wrong with Patreon, right? Like,
so I think Patreon is awesome. I think Patreon is built.
I think they did an amazing thing, but I also don't know what they've done for a while either. I guess that's the point I come from.
Yeah, I think that like they have built an incredible tool that supports so many creators, and like honestly, what Jack and them have built is like really an inspiration for us. Mm-hmm. I think the struggle and where we are seeing success is that creators don't want to be on patreon.com/Gregarious. They don't want to be on patreon.com/Camp, because when you sign up there, this is the same issue Teespring said. When you sign up there, when you're looking at there, it says Patreon in the top, my camera's backwards, but it says Patreon in the top left. And if I click that, I'm going to get in, see a bunch of other creators. So Greg, you may have sent me to your Patreon and I might find Ken from that.
Yeah.
And that's like, and that's crazy.
Like the cross-pollination stuff, I think is not a benefit to people.
Exactly. And that's super valuable from like, Patreon early growth discovery days. Like that's the reason.
They've even said that the sweet spot for their creators that are successful on their platform are the kinds who can drive people to it, not the ones that bleed people to the edges, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, it's not, if Patreon you could style it perfectly and you could throw your own domain in front of it and own it, I think that would solve so much of the needs that creators have. But I do think that's the real struggle. And that's why you see, I think the Side Plus team, they spent, I don't know, probably a ton of money. I think they cobbled together a bunch of different services. Like if you look at, Logan Paul's Maverick Club, I think that's homegrown. Like look at the money that's spent on the top end of like the true percentile of superstars just to claim their own brand, right? That's it. They're not, it's just a SaaS model, but they're claiming their own brand.
Ostensibly, Patreon has the resources, it has the reach that it could have been offering commerce in a way that you're killing it at now, right? Like they had a head start of like 5 years, right?
And they do have commerce, like you can sell products through Patreon, but it's just not smoothly integrated. And I think the challenge is, like, the honest answer is we probably wouldn't have got here without Walker's experience at Teespring and just seeing like, once you're 3 years in, you've got this, you got to grow X%, quarter over quarter, month over month, year over year, because you're not going to hit that next funding round. You're not going to, so it's easy to kind of lose sight of that. Not to say Patreon's done this. I'm just saying in general.
For sure. Yeah.
It's just easy to lose sight when you're chasing that VC cycle. And so we put in basically 2.5, 3 years of just foundation building to get to this point. And it's tough, it's tough to put in like a ton of time and then you kind of cross your fingers, like, is this going to work? Is somebody else going to beat us there? Right. And so there's definitely a genuine challenge.
This objectively, like when, as a founders, we look at things like I look at how much Cameo has grown in a 2.5, 3 year window, and they've experimented and already moonlight or whatever the word is, killed products that didn't work and evolved away. I just wish I was seeing this innovation, like, or at least more visibly from Patreon, right? Like, because they are a critical part of like our ecosystem. And I guess they're the bellwether of the web 2.0 2.5 arena, right? Like they were the ones who showed people that you could make money like from your
Yeah.
family. I think.
It's a real thing, and you got to give them props, right? They are the yeah. I would say the one thing that Cameo has in their favor versus like a Patreon is Patreon isn't a marketplace. In this, like to your point earlier, people don't go to Patreon to find creators; they go to creators and then go to their Patreon, right? Cameo is a little different. That like I would go to Cameo to get a gift for somebody's birthday or for a bachelorette party, right? Like there is a genuine marketplace element to Cameo that allows them to kind of have a different model for creator success, even though they can find creators driving fans there otherwise. I do think Cameo will struggle from like the creator into Cameo side just because of the 25.
I don't consider Cameo a creator platform really, right? Like it's a celebrity, micro celebrity kind of platform to me more so than
it's more of a marketplace, if anything.
Exactly.
But it's also the scope of the person is just very different, right? Like you have like broad name recognition outside of your fan base, I think ultimately, like or your platform fan base, right? Like.
And if you have like if you're already driving fans there to your shout out, you should do it on a Fourthwall. You should do it on like it's a much less cut. Like it's just
20%, right? Or something.
25. Yeah. And it's just it's not bad as a marketplace. It makes a ton of sense there. But if you're going for a specific person or you're a specific creator driving fans there, it just doesn't make the most sense.
So we have a question from Twitter Spaces, Ryan Nelson. Let me see if I just add him as speaker. Ryan, are you there?
Hey, what's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
I'm outside, so let me know if it gets loud.
No worries. What
this is cool. I like this chat.
Yeah. So Ryan actually joined a Twitter space that I did a while back. We're just talking. I think it was about like just DAOs and Web3 stuff on Twitter Spaces. But yeah, he's been working at a bunch of different companies. Right now, what is Motivelli, right? That's what you're working on right now, Ryan?
Yeah, a little side project, little passion project. I'm interested in this subject because I've been online making stuff, professional designer, over 20 years, and I feel like we're in this awkward phase. By the way, your product is cool. This Fourthwall thing sounds cool. This is more of just general creator comment that I wanted to bring up. I feel like we're in this awkward phase of digital creation or creation in general, where merch has become like the byproduct of not being able to like make money digitally, right, on these platforms. So people have merch because they're like, well, I'm posting all this stuff, I'm doing all this stuff. Maybe people will buy my t-shirt. And I think that's kind of cool, but I also think that's like really a narrow portion of like of what this Web3 promise is going to do. And again, it's just a promise. I don't have the answers, and I like to look for seek out what people are doing because I think it's really interesting, and it's a big problem because the only way to be a really successful creator is to be very popular. Like the popularity aspect of this is bananas. Like you cannot make it if you make quality stuff, but you're not popular because you don't do it right with the algorithms or you weren't in early enough. So I think, just a general comment about like this awkward stage of where we are as creators trying to be self-sufficient online, make money for making work. And I think that's just such an interesting spot to be right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say actually, maybe not to fully disagree, but partially to add on here is that I do think products, even as simple as like from merch all the way up, I generally think that this is a physical corollary of what an NFT symbolizes. And by that, I mean, it is a symbol of something that you supported from the early days. So imagine like a band back in the day, right? You might go to their concert this year and buy a shirt from that. You might go to the concert next year and buy the next tour's t-shirt or hoodie or whatever. And that is a symbol for super fans to kind of represent that super fandom. I think that's what NFTs generally are aiming to offer within the digital side of things. That it's a certificate of community, right? It's simple, but it's a certificate that you were there from this point on. And so I do think that there's like a genuine element of that. That said, you are right, spot on the
Yeah.
popularity side of things. Like it's a 90-10 space for sure. That said, we do have outliers on Fourthwall. We've worked with folks with like, I don't know, probably 75,000 subs on Instagram who, sold over 100 grand in 24 hours in terms of product sales. Like it's hard to do. And those folks generally blow up right after that. It's almost like a precursor that if you've built that crazy, like rabid fan base, you're going to see that explosive growth afterwards. But there's a lot of people who are slow and steady as well. So it's across the board.
So, well, I'm curious in terms of the just the merchandise, like, is there a lot of demand for people to buy merchandise from creators, right? I mean, it's like, how do I know as a creator the right time for me to set up a merch shop?
Yeah.
And how do I make that bet?
So I would say, I think merch shop is probably the wrong way to think about it. I would say every single creator has a product that is their product sweet spot. And you don't always know what that's going to be in advance. I think merch is by far the easiest starting point because it's literally zero risk, right? You can do it in a, on-demand drop style. And whether you sell one or you sell 100,000, nobody knows except for you, right? So it's easy. There's no inventory risk. There's no anything. But everyone has one product. Like we work with creators that'll sell 2 shirts and then sell plushies and sell 20,000 of them, right? It's like, so you don't necessarily, it is a bit of trial and error to figure out what product is your sweet spot one. But I think every creator does have some product that symbolizes what they offer, right? A musician, it might be a CD or a vinyl. Someone who's a gamer, it might be a hoodie or a keyboard or a plushie. For a beauty influencer, it may be a personalized makeup kit or fingernail polish, right? There is a product that I think fits well with the creator's demographic. You don't always know what that is in advance, and that's why merch is sort of an easy starting point because it's no risk. But I think products are so key to like building that aspect.
Actually, Will, can I ask you a question? I guess one of the challenges I'd heard from many creators, or sort of you see this life cycle, historically of I start by selling a little bit of merch, sometimes stickers or whatever it may be. Then usually they go on tour actually. So I'm curious if that part becomes part of it because, like the pop-up idea and sort of just being physically present with your fans. But obviously the last 3 years have been a shit show for this. But then I think it goes past to like your own custom goods. And so, like for example, formulating, your own shampoo or whatever it's going to be, or your own protein powder or whatever the heck it is that you may be selling, or working on the stitching and sewing of how your own goods are made. Do you imagine sort of, two problems or two questions there, I guess. Like one, do you imagine sort of growing into those arenas, like to support sort of some of those more advanced sort of use cases? And then one of the problems I've often seen is actually the capital requirements is actually usually like the preventative thing that like prevents a lot of people who probably could sell out a product from actually getting started. And like, that seems like another opportunity in the ecosystem still.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say on the like the high end stuff, like absolutely. Now we can't do everything perfectly. So like shampoo is probably something we will aim to do well in like 3 years, but certainly custom cut and sews.
You need beta tester. Ken loves beta.
Yeah, exactly. All right, perfect. Hair looks great. Yeah.
Thank you.
But I would say like ethos wise, what works is creators that build that mentality of there's limited edition and it's on a recurring basis, right? Your first one might suck. You might sell 5 products, but the second one, the fans learn that sells out. You might sell 50 and you might sell 500 and then 5,000, right? There is that sort of mentality of as fans get familiarized with it, you do build that sort of recurring sense. So we will definitely offer the whole gamut across the board. That said, it's impossible for us to do everything well. So
that makes sense. But I'm just kind of curious. Like, one YouTuber I follow is a guy teaching men's fashion. And he drops his essential stuff and it sells out all the time, right? Like, I got into bodybuilding because of watching Christian Guzman, who launched Alpha Land, and I have like a bunch of his gear and I love it. And it sells out also. And, he's built massive business. I always thought like someone needed to product, like you guys have productized what like Christian Guzman's basically been doing, right? Like
exactly
the other stuff, and it's amazing.
And he's got his own team on Shopify probably at this point, right? He's invested, he's built that stuff. But the next Christian Guzman, like they're going to start on Fourthwall because it's a million times easier and it's going to scale with them so that when they bring on their agent or business manager who's like, all right, we source this from wherever, you just plug it in and it works and you don't have to like go off platform.
And you made an interesting comment there because I think maybe we glossed over this a little bit. And part of why, to Ryan's question, I guess also relative to NFT worlds, is that scarcity is actually a really important part of the ecosystem, right? Like even though like things could be on demand, it's the fact that you don't allow more of them actually is like the powerful part that motivates.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's time too. I'd say time scarcity is the biggest thing. Like you can sell, zero risk. You can sell as many of these as you can sell, and then we'll go to the factory and produce them, right? As long as it's like under, let's say 7-10 days in terms of the manufacturing window. Nobody cares. Everyone's happy with that. But that time scarcity is so key that if you don't get it in the next 3 days, you miss out on that option. And so what we see by far the most success with is creators who will use that window. They'll grab from drop one. They'll get that email list or that CRM. And then for the next one, they'll email all of them 24 hours in advance, either give them 10% off or say, y'all have early access before this sells out. Because some things are legitimately limited use, especially for creators who, have the money and can pre-produce things. If you don't get the size 3XL before it sells out, like that's gone. And so having that kind of being in the past buyers club, becoming a repeat buyer. And once you get somebody twice, they tend to buy over and over and over. They're your super fan. They're your supporter. They love it.
How many videos I've watched where someone's literally printing labels to go down like with their ShipBob account to like drop off a bunch of crap to like be delivered to their fans. So I hear you. I think this is really fascinating because I certainly see the potential for this because I think there's so much work involved in doing this well. Actually, the last question though for me just is, have you solved the localized delivery thing? Because one of the biggest complaints you get from people is like, I bought a $10 t-shirt, but it's $50 in customs, right? So do you do localized sort of fulfillment as well? Or
it depends on the type of production you're using. So the honest answer is if you're pre-producing things, it's hard to do localized fulfillment for a lot of times just because you ship them to all one place, you test it out. If you're doing like on-demand prints, like if you're printing like a one-use hat or one-use mug or something like that, it's pretty easy because you can have the same facility in Europe and the US to kind of mitigate the need for that. So it really depends on the product type. We haven't solved it to the degree that I would like to solve it, which makes it perfect for everyone, no matter the use case. But I think that'll be something we'll improve over time.
Cool. Well, we're at time here, but Will, is there anything that we forgot to bring up? Anything about Fourthwall? When are you going to open it up for the masses? I know you're still doing a little bit of testing, as you mentioned earlier, but
honestly, as soon as we can, we've getting like hundreds and hundreds of requests and invites like basically every day, every week. And so we're just trying to keep up with that demand and give everyone an incredible experience because I think it's so powerful to have that personalized experience and that exceptional one. So we're working there. We'll get it as soon as we can hire quickly enough and ramp that up, for sure the goal. So, but yeah, I just want to say, really appreciate the time. Really enjoyed, chatting with you, Ken. Really enjoyed chatting with you, Greg. Ryan, appreciate your question calling in as well. This has been super fun. I'd love to do it again sometime. So thank you.
Absolutely. Both. Well, when you have more news, you raise a new fund, or you have more products to share, please let us know. We'd be more than happy to have you on the show. Yeah,
I'll shoot you a note. We're doing an exciting launch in early April with some new folks. And then Greg, I'd love to learn more about Magic Link if you could send me that.
I will hook you up. And by the way, how do Ken and I start to make some merch for our show?
Yeah, I'll hook you guys up with the sign up link right after this. We'd love to get a created economy
Magic Link for our sign up link.
Do some created economy shampoo. That's
yeah,
clear.
Exactly. We'll hook you up with some shampoo. So.
Well, it'll be, the whole back wall will just be all lined up. It'll be like the new Mary Kay. Pitch it that way. So cool. Well, thank you, Will. I really appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe out there. And
coming back soon, or
yeah, I'll probably be back next week. So it's got a little bit longer out here. This weekend we'll be checking everything out. And then next week fly back. So appreciate the time. I really enjoyed the chat.
So far, it's an amazing solution you guys are creating for creative.
Awesome.
Thanks,
appreciate it, y'all.
Thanks.
Be good.
Bye.
All right. Well, that'll wrap up another episode of Created Economy. Hey,
what a good combo. I love that product. It's just, it solves so many of the things I've seen just naturally watching creators growing into that universe. So it's really exciting to see someone solving all the parts of it and having that expertise on, in the founding team is really critical, I think. Right.
Yeah. Especially taking on the Patreon and like the e-commerce side and kind of making it more native. I think what he pointed out is let's focus less on the logistical side of things, like, oh, how do I pay for this, or how do I do this? Like, it's literally just a, you know, drag and drop, and Fourthwall will handle all the fulfillment, and then you as a creator can continue on building and producing content that your fans love. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, and then let's bring back the slides here. There we go. All right. So we have a packed schedule for the basically the rest of March. So next week we are having Alexandra from Pinterest. She's going to give us the lay of the land about how Pinterest is reaching out to the creator economy. I think a lot of the spotlight has been shed on YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and Snap, but Pinterest has actually been in the creator economy for a lot longer. Not specifically in the social media side, but really reaching out to creators on the offline side. So looking forward to hearing what Pinterest is up to. And then we are off the following week. And then we are back on, I think it's on March 23rd with Jenna Hannon from Supermassive. And if you want to be a guest on our show, go to creativeeconomy.com/guest list and let us know. We are booking out at the end of March and also into April. Yeah, that's how months work. Yeah.
And I think we're switching. We're probably going to switch to recorded episodes. So you don't have to be able to make this slot, I guess, is probably the most important part.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we can be flexible in terms of the broadcast. We'll probably start kicking that off at the end of this month.
Yeah, once we retire our current schedule.
Yeah. So yeah, feel free to drop us a line, let us know, give us your pitch on what you're doing in the creator economy, and we will get back to you. And with that, stay tuned for more episodes of Creative Economy and Creative Briefs. And with that, Greg, I will see you later.
All right, bud. See you later.